Hello and welcome. My name is Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist and I vlog and I podcast about mental health. I'm on a mission to change the world one thought at a time and make therapy accessible. I've been talking about racism being a mental health issue and how racism appears in the workplace and how it can really cause havoc for your anxiety and the way that you approach situations. I'm now going to talk about the oppression between the cultures being at work, something I have seen and witnessed and thought, oh my god. So when you get to work as a person of colour, not clear of the pen, which is something you would have watched my other videos, and I don't like the term, but I'm using it because it's a label. When you get into the workplace, you know you're going to have to contend with some things. Somebody's probably going to talk about your skin tone being different to another person who's probably from another country in Africa and you're from the Caribbean, or they might talk about another Caribbean country. You know you're going to come across some really
Luther King Day is coming up. You got anything planned?
insensitive questioning about your personal being, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And you're going to feel like you're on show, and you're going to feel like you're going to try to minimise yourself, which is going to be really hard because you're a human being and you stand out, we all stand out. So having to deal with those little microaggressions that some people don't recognise they're actually doing, we got to deal with each other as well. And I say each other, people who are like us in hair texture and skin tone. And when you get into the workplace, that can cause you a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration, and it can trigger you to feel at a loss. And that's happened in where I sit at this point in my life. So what happens is, you go into the workplace, and like I said to you, you've got the two types of black people who are in the office. And there's a different way in each culture, the way that each culture receives a person from their culture. But most importantly, it's really important to recognise how black people receive each other. Because there is a consensus throughout the world that we were less than human, we were not human, we're only just really being accepted. There's so many things in the world that we're just not accepted for, and we're just really slowly, people are recognising we are obviously human. We've had to accept taking not just the back seat, but the seat down the road and around the corner. And now we're saying we're not taking that seat anymore, we're getting to the front. Hey, Rosa Parks! Anyway, and because of that, we're very aware of how we look and how we're treated by people who are not looking like us, but mostly how we're treated by people who are like us. Now, when you've been indoctrinated for 400 years, 500 years, and been told how different you are and how terrible you are and you're the worst thing in the world, you're likely to have self-hate.
It's that she hates herself and she wants her own life back.
So you're likely to think that you've got no self-esteem, you've got no self-worth, you'll believe that you're a failure, you'll believe you can't you believe all of these things because that's what you've been indoctrinated to think, which is why, as a black person, black people, we do celebrate when we have phenomenal stars who make loads of money and do amazing things, because we were told we can't do that. So now we're recognising, hey, we can. But besides that, we get into the workplace, and many of us still hold these issues because we can't shake them, because it's indoctrinated, stuck in our head. And sometimes we've had parenting which has taught us so much negativity about who we are and how we are and what we should think of ourselves. And because of that, we walk into the workplace with these thoughts. And when we see another person like us, one of two things happen. It's always two things. We either are rooting for that person to strive and go up the ranks, or we want to pull them down because of how we feel about ourselves. It's always about how we feel about ourselves. So you either want to push somebody up because of how you feel about yourself, or push them down because of how you feel about yourself. And when you come across the the people pleaser, the one that really wants everybody to like them, who wants to disassociate with their own culture and ignore the fact of what they really look like and who they are, they're probably going to throw people look like them under the bus more often than not. And also, they're less likely to throw any person who's of Anglo-Saxon who appears to not be like them under the bus. So basically what I'm saying is, a black person who is an arse kisser is likely to throw another black person under the bus in the workplace, purely because
women are so mean to
they
each
have
other.
that thought pattern, I'm the only black in the village, and they've accepted being, you can't come in here and, you know, tread on my toes, and you can't outrank me, and you can't be better, and I don't like that, and I need to maintain my status. That's a low self-worth. Anybody that is a people pleaser or arse kisser in that way has low self-worth. Anyway, so the other person who is the other black type would be the person who is quite comfortable with who they are, tolerates the discomfort, manages themselves well, is less likely to throw somebody similar to them under the bus because they recognise the struggle. The struggle is real, and because we recognise the struggle, we're likely to want to lift up, but it's a very difficult thing to do. So going into the workplace as a black person with another black person, you walk through the door and you kind of go, right? You're not sure. You're not sure if they're gonna try and walk all over you. You're not sure if they're going to be your friend. You don't know if it's friend or foe, yeah? And that, the anxiety and stress that can cause you within the workplace is quite tremendous. Now, everything starts with thought, so we're triggered into it. So what we have to do is watch each other's behaviour and look out for signs that say, alarm bells, this person is probably going to cause me a problem. And when you see certain things unfold, you might go, you might recognise it, you might be able to go, okay, this is what is known as the post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Feeling of foreshortened future.
When we were trained, remember we were indoctrinated, we were trained to be slaves, we were trained to believe that we were lesser than, we were trained to hate each other, and we were trained to tell on each other because the slave master doesn't want us running away and doesn't want us to be together and be empowered to say, we're not having this. So we've been trained to believe all this stuff. We still have it within us, some of us, and when we get into the workplace, we're recognising the same scenario that was on the plantation cotton fields in corporate England, in corporate America. We're recognising it. We're recognising that we have to tell on each other in order to gain favour with management, who is aka the master, the slave master. And many of us still practice this in order to climb up the ranks and get promoted. So we will dumb down, play dumb, play stupid, not really focus on who we are, and act in a particular way in order to be accepted. And that is why you'll probably find that a lot of women, black women in corporate jobs, are wearing, I don't want to condemn, but are probably wearing hair that's not theirs in order to fit in and be accepted, because we've been told how unmanageable and how dreadful our hair is, and this is a way of blending in. This is something I've always found quite interesting, because I've had afro natural hair all my life, and I don't do that, and it's a statement as a black person when you wear your hair the way that you do in the workplace, because you're not frightened of being yourself, which does mean that people are going to unfortunately stigmatise you, but you can manage that in your own way, the best way for you. And this is a way of recognising that you're stronger than you think you are if you're a black person watching this, and sometimes you think, can I do this? Yes, you can. I won't start rapping, can I kick it? But mostly we've gone really, really far and almost nowhere. So the point of these videos about racism and about in the workplace is to actually talk about it on a different level, rather than the oppressed level, rather than actually get to the ins and outs of it, the underhand, the underlying stuff, the stuff that actually we don't tell white people about, because we don't think that we don't think you can handle it. So we don't tell you. We don't say, hey, white people, this is how we feel. We much prefer to keep it underhand because it keeps us safe. Because we don't know what you're going to do with that information. So why am I sharing this information? To recognise there is a whole mental health issue going on here. And it separates and it divides. And actually everything which starts with a thought can end with a thought. Because that thought leads to a behaviour. So whatever the behaviours are that you're exhibiting, recognise what you're thinking. The next time you get into the workplace and you sit next to a black person and you want to state something about their hair, or you want to stick your hand in their hair, you want to do something like that. I used to work in this school, and these Tunbridge Wells Anglo-Saxon teachers would find it ever so delightful to take their hands over and touch the Afro-Caribbean boy's hair and go, oh, it's so spongy. And I would sit there thinking, Lord Jesus, take me now. Kill me, I don't want to react to this. They were so unaware of what they were doing, thinking it was okay. Because it's not. I left that school. 95% of the reason I left was because of that reason. And I knew me on my own couldn't do anything about it. And I knew that. So I had to walk away. But these are things that we deal with. And it's important to recognise the divide and recognise the behaviour and recognise what's going on. So this video is about what happens when a black person meets a black person at work, and the two types, and how we throw each other under the bus purely to gain favour. And I think it's time we started talking about that, because that's what we call crabs in a barrel mentality, because we don't know how to get past the trauma that we've suffered and are still suffering, and we live in little pockets with each other, away from each other, sometimes separating ourselves because of that. But that's another video topic. My name is Desiree Shaw. I'm a psychotherapist, and I vlog and I podcast, and I'm on a mission to make therapy accessible and change the world one thought at a time. I hope you're enjoying these vlogs. These ones are a whole series on racism. So racism, mental health. I think we need to talk about this. I think it's important to have this out there, don't you? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Subscribe. I need to get this message out there. Thank you, and bye for now. See you on the flip side. I used to say that in school, and for some reason it felt right now. Sorry.
I think Obama's doing great. And I'm not saying you're here because of affirmative action or anything. So, Martin Luther King Day is coming up. You got anything planned?
Do I have anything planned?
For The Office? I've seen all 5 seasons, well, I've seen 3 seasons of The Wire, and...
Why would you think that I was the one planning the MLK Day program?
I just assumed because you,
You don't need to be racist to have bias. I think people, when they think about racism, they're thinking about
old-fashioned racism. They're thinking about burning crosses. They're thinking about people with hoods on. We can call that bias, right? And it is bias and it is racism and so forth. Those people are more extreme. They don't exist everywhere. They're not your everyday person. We all can also possess bias, and it's bias that is harder to detect, and it's bias sometimes that's more subtle, and we also can act on that bias.